The NFL is a game we all love, and as fans we grow attached to certain players, whether it be because they play on our favorite team, or they're just a really good player and great guy off the field. Unfortunately, injury is a part of the game, and some players who were previously stars or Pro Bowl level players got injured in 2019 and weren't the same player they were in 2018 or even before that. In today's video, we're going to discuss some top NFL talent that will rebound to the players they were just a few years ago. But before we get started, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel, as all support is very much appreciated. Now let's begin. The first player who will bounce back in 2020 is Giants running back Saquon Barkley. In Saquon's rookie year, he had over 2,000 total yards, 15 total touchdowns, and was a rare bright spot on an otherwise bad Giants team. He had 7 games with 100 rushing yards and 10 games with a rushing touchdown, and was the #1 fantasy pick in just about every draft in 2019. However, in 2019, he sprained his ankle in a Week 3 loss to Tampa and missed the next couple of games. In the first 4 games off of the injury, he averaged just 2.4 yards per carry with no rushing touchdowns, and he didn't look like himself on the field. To top it off, the Giants were 0-4 with him during that stretch, and due in large part to the injury, Saquon didn't have anywhere close to as good of a season in 2019 than he did in his rookie year. He averaged nearly half a yard less per carry and nearly 12 less receiving yards per game. He will bounce back in 2020 at full health and really help out young quarterback Daniel Jones in his career progression. He showed all the potential in the world in his rookie season, and he should get back there this upcoming season. The next player who will bounce back in 2020 is Lions quarterback Matt Stafford. Before Stafford went down in 2019 with an injury, he became the fastest player to reach 40,000 career passing yards and was having a career year. He's always been known as a big numbers guy while playing on mediocre or below average teams, and while a lot of that's out of his control, he is a good quarterback. A lot of people don't know this, but in 2019, Matt Stafford was on pace for nearly 5,000 passing yards and 38 touchdowns to just 10 interceptions. He had the best passer rating of his career in 2019 and was averaging over 13 yards per completion, which was also a career high. His touchdown percentage last year was 6.5%, which ranked 4th in the league only behind Lamar Jackson, Ryan Tannehill, and Drew Brees. If Stafford can put up these numbers in 2020, the Lions have a legitimate shot to go to the playoffs, as they had a very good draft and returned the man who led the league in receiving touchdowns in 2019, that of course being Kenny Golladay. Stafford is and always has been a very underrated player, and he should bounce back after an unfortunate 2019. The next player who should bounce back in 2020 is Broncos defensive end Bradley Chubb. In his rookie season back in 2018, Chubb had 12 sacks, 21 quarterback hits, 14 tackles for a loss, and 2 forced fumbles. He looked to be the next great Broncos pass rusher and looked to be a perennial Pro Bowler. He was an elite draft prospect back in 2018, and it looked like him and Von Miller would wreak havoc on opposing offenses until Von decided to hang up the cleats, whenever that would be. Unfortunately, in 2019, Chubb played just 4 games before tearing his ACL, and in those 4 games accumulated just 1 sack. Chubb should rebound to 2020 and get back to the player he was in 2018 and be back in double-digit sack totals. If he does that, then he should be on his way to first of hopefully many Pro Bowls. He has all the talent in the world and gets to learn every day in practice and in meetings with how to break down film and how to become a better pro from Von Miller, and the sky is truly the limit for Chubb. The next player who should bounce back in 2020 is Vikings wide receiver Adam Thielen. Before Thielen went down with the hamstring injury in Week 7, he was on pace for a career-high 14 receiving touchdowns in 2019. That would have led the league, and had he been able to achieve that, he likely would have been headed for a 3rd straight Pro Bowl. He tried to rush back from his injury and play in Kansas City a few weeks later, but played a few snaps, received just 1 target, and was done for the day. Regardless, Adam has just one 100-yard game, and that was a huge difference from 2018, where he had an NFL record 9 100-yard games. He had 8 straight to start the season that year, and while that should never be expected from anybody, as Jerry Rice himself never even achieved that, Thielen should bounce back in 2020 and be a good receiver again. He should hit 1,000 yards as the true #1 option and be similar to the player he was in 2018. The next player who was injured in 2019 that will bounce back in 2020 is Steelers wide receiver JuJu Smith-Schuster. JuJu played in 12 games last season and had just 42 catches for 552 yards and a career-low 3 touchdowns. This can be contributed in large part to worse quarterback play, but there is no denying JuJu was much worse without Ben. He averaged just 46 yards per game in 2019 compared to nearly double that in 2018 when he averaged 89 yards per game and went for over 1,400 yards at just 22 years old. He had career lows in every statistic in 2019, and with his quarterback Big Ben coming back, his numbers will be almost guaranteed to improve in the 2020 season. While I don't think it should be expected of JuJu to average 111 catches and over 1,400 yards per year like he did in 2018, I do think he'll get somewhere close to that and hit double-digit touchdowns for the first time in his career in 2020. It is a contract year for him, and JuJu will be doing everything in his power to make sure he gets his chunk of change at the end of the day. Next up is AJ Green, who has played just 9 games in the past 2 seasons. He nearly became the first player to start an NFL career off with 6 straight 1,000-yard receiving seasons. Mike Evans has since done that, but by the time AJ was in his 6th year, Mike Evans obviously wasn't there yet. But AJ hasn't played in a full 16-game season since 2017 and has done so just once in the past 4 years. He will now have Heisman winner Joe Burrow throwing him the ball, and for the first time in a few years, the Bengals look to have some hope in their future. AJ will play this season at 32 years old and will be doing everything in his power to earn one last fat contract before his time in the NFL is up. AJ has been around for what seems like ever and has accumulated over 600 catches, 8,900 yards, and over 60 touchdowns in his time with Cincinnati. There's no doubt AJ will want to perform and get back to being himself and to being the AJ Green we grew accustomed to seeing this year, and if he does, he will certainly be rewarded by one NFL team for one final big payday to set himself and his family up for long-term financial success. The next player who should bounce back in 2020 is Seahawks tight end Will Dissly. Dissly has showed a lot of promise in his first 2 seasons, but has played in just 10 career games. He had a patellar tendon injury in 2018 and he tore his Achilles in 2019. He had a 100-yard game in his NFL debut back in 2018 and had the first 2-touchdown game of his career last year against the Pittsburgh Steelers. If Dissly cannot stay healthy this year and play at least 12 or 13 games in the upcoming season, then the Seahawks may have had enough of him and just flat out release him. I don't agree with that decision, but it's part of the NFL and that is a business. I, along with everyone, really want Dissly to play a full season and stay healthy, and I really hope he bounces back in 2020. The next player who can bounce back this year is Eagles wide receiver DeSean Jackson. We all know how bad the Eagles wide receivers were in 2019 due in large part to injury. They addressed that in the first round of the draft this year by taking TCU wideout Jalen Reagor in the first round, but that doesn't mean DeSean Jackson can't come back and have a place in the offense. In his first game back with Philly since 2013, Jackson let Eagles fans know he was there, as he had an outstanding 8-catch, 154-yard, 2-touchdown performance in Week 1. While that isn't expected out of any player, he still has burners, even at the age of 34, and he can be a viable option in this offense for quarterback Carson Wentz. Carson would have taken any help he could have got towards the end of last year, and with the help of DeSean coming back and the emergence of the aforementioned Reagor, the Eagles will be in a much better position in 2020 than they were at the end of 2019 when Carson had former college quarterback Greg Ward as one of his receiving options. The final player in today's video who should bounce back in 2020, and this isn't due to injury, but due to a sophomore slump in 2019, and that's Browns quarterback Baker Mayfield. This video is titled NFL Players That Will Bounce Back in 2020, and while I did focus the majority of the video on injured players, this part is not focused on that. Baker had a big sophomore slump as he threw 5 less touchdowns in his second season than he did in his rookie season while throwing the ball 48 more times. The Browns gave him weapons to work with, such as Odell Beckham, Jarvis Landry, Nick Chubb, and he just didn't perform in year number 2 the way he did in year number 1. What the Browns missed most, though, in helping Baker's progression is getting him an adequate offensive line. They did that this offseason by adding Jedrick Wills in the first round and by adding tackle Jack Conklin in free agency. They also went out and paid tight end Austin Hooper. The Browns have given Baker everything he needs to succeed, and now it's time for him to go prove why he was the number 1 overall pick and to get them more than 6 wins in a season. If the Browns' playoff drought stops soon, it will be because Baker Mayfield had a good year and stepped up the way the team needed him to. He was the number 1 overall pick over 4 other first-round quarterbacks, and now it's time to prove why. He has no excuses in 2020. And that's all I have for today's video. I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, please like the video. It helps a ton. And if you've made it this far into the video, I greatly appreciate the time out of your day. And if you aren't already, please subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys next time. Have a great day. Let's go Vikes.